Well, a lot of stuff that was, I
Yeah.
couldn't keep up with Sabbath or Ozzy or Dio or all those bands that were all like
Yeah.
interbreeding with each
Yeah,
other,
yeah.
you know?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the shed. I'm Troy. This is Dave.
Hola.
Today we're talking about the top 3.
Devil songs.
But before we get started, why don't you leave your picks below, see if they match ours. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and also like this video. So let's just get rolling. What's your number 3?
When it comes to the devil, there's a lot of songs about the devil. I mean, I have so many favorite songs about the devil, but I'm going to go with Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste.
I'll tell you right now, that almost made my top 3, but I knew you would pick that song. And I wanted to
So
be
again, you picked it and unpicked it.
I picked it and unpicked it because I wanted to be a little bit different and talk about something a little different. So yeah, go ahead.
That's good. Mick wrote all these incredible lyrics for that song.
Been around for a long, long year. Stole many a man's soul of faith.
If you really read all the lyrics that he wrote about that, it's got to be one of his best songs. Basically talked about all the bad things in history. You know, when he was talking about that song, death of Jesus, the Russian Revolution, death of the Kennedys, is a song that goes through history talking about where the devil was at certain parts in that song.
I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain.
Stones played that song at Altamont. Altamont was the infamous concert where they hired the Hell's Angels to be the security, and that one dude got, murdered by the Hell's Angels in front of the stage when they were playing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what song they were playing, but I think at that point in the Stones' career, they were really doing stuff that was awesome and experimental and controversial. And I'd have to say between Beggar's Banquet and Exile, that was the best period of the Stones.
Pleased to meet you. Hope you get my name. Oh, yeah.
That's a great number 3. I love that song. And it was funny, when I first moved to Waco in 91, there was a band that everybody used to go see here in Waco. They were called Riff Raff. And
Yeah.
Jimbo Ward, who we interviewed in the shed, he was the lead singer for that song. And I remember I went to go see that band one night, and they played that song. And I'd never heard the song before at that time. This was probably like 92, 93.
Come on,
And
dude. Really?
yeah, and I remember hearing that song, the whole hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo.
But what's puzzling you is the nature of my name.
A lot of hoo-hoos in that song.
A lot of hoo-hoos in that song. Well, that's a great number 3. Well, my number 3 is Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast.
I left alone. My mind was blank. I needed time to think.
So Number of the Beast came out in 1982. It was the first album with Bruce Dickinson. They, I don't know if they fired their previous singer,
Sure.
Paul Di'Anno, or he
Yeah.
left. I'm not sure. I don't really know the story.
He was like Dio. I mean, he could
He was
sing
an
fast.
outstanding singer. Yeah. Back at that time, they were targeted by Christian groups because they were.
PMRC.
Well, it was even before the PMRC, but they were targeted by Christian groups because they were labeled as satanic, especially for this one song.
Well, they are satanic. I mean, shit. I mean, it's not like, gee, where do you draw that line between who's satanic and who's not? I mean, fucking A, Number of the Beast.
So even though they were targeted by those Christian groups back in the day, all that did was help publicized the band even more, and
Sure.
probably made them even bigger than they
Throwing gas on the fire.
They were throwing gas on the fire, and a lot of those bands back then, they were doing backmasking on their album.
Yeah.
But all the PMRC and those Christian groups were, they were targeting all those bands like Ozzy and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Motley Crue, because they were all, they thought they were
biting heads off of bats.
Exactly. If you don't know the story, Ozzy, I'm sure everybody knows this story, but Ozzy is infamous for biting a head off a bat during a concert, because I guess back in the day, people would just throw whatever on stage, and he thought it was a toy bat.
Yeah.
And he bit the head off of it, and it wasn't a toy bat. It was a real bat.
And Sean's going, "Dummy, it's real." I'm like, what?
Of course, they have that picture of him with the blood.
No, that's when he bit the head off
The
of the
dove.
doves. Yeah. During a record executive meeting.
Yeah,
He thought it would be a great idea to buy.
Ozzy had problems back then. No doubt
But
about
all
it.
that did for those kind of bands was it made them more popular and made people
for
want
sure.
to listen to their music and go to their
Yeah,
concerts
exactly.
even more than
At least those kids that probably a little bit more to the, fringe from what I was. It didn't make me want to go out there and buy that album.
it made me want. Well, I didn't.
You're such a rebel.
I was a rebel. So Steve Harris wrote the song because he watched the movie Damien Omen
2.
and he had nightmares that night.
Fucking A, man. I mean, when I watched Omen and Exorcist, I had nightmares. Jesus. That stuff, Omen was like scarier than Exorcist.
I don't know if I've ever seen.
I used to
the
have
Omen,
nightmares about that shit.
Yeah. But he watched that movie and had nightmares about it, and actually wrote that song the next day because from the nightmares he had the night before.
No kidding.
There's this whole spoken word thing at the beginning of that song that is performed by English actor Barry Clayton.
For it is a human number. Its number is 666.
But originally they wanted Vincent Price to do it. But Vincent Price wanted to charge over $25,000 just to do those few lines at the beginning of the video, or the beginning of the song, and they were like, never mind, we'll get this other guy.
Right.
So Barry Clayton, whoever that guy is. I don't know what he's done since or before, but I just thought that was interesting that Vincent Price wanted to charge $25,000.
Get what you can.
I guess so. Wonder how much Michael Jackson paid him for that whole part in Thriller.
A lot.
A lot. And maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they were like, hey, I got this much money from Michael Jackson. You're going to pay me some money too.
Yeah, exactly. But, it was good for Vincent Price's career at the time because he was faded, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, he was pretty much doing voiceover stuff by that point,
Yeah. My number 2 shouldn't be a surprise, but it's Van Halen. What's the name of the song?
Running with the devil.
It was a kickoff song from the first album by Van Halen, which is one of the greatest albums of all time. It really set the tone for the whole Van Halen 1 album, I guess you'd call it. It was such a badass song. The beginning of the song is like... What it was like car horns.
Yeah.
And
they took the batteries from their cars and brought them in the studio and hooked them up to car horns.
Recorded it, but then Ted decided to slow it down.
Yeah.
Who thinks of shit like that? I mean, it was just like, Wow.
And then that bass comes in. Dum, bum, bum, bum.
It's just the greatest kickoff song
Yeah.
on any album, I have to think. I mean, it's up there with, like, Communication Breakdown with Zeppelin.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's really just a one-off, just kicking in the teeth song.
I
And
totally agree with you because that's my number 2 also. What comes after that song?
Eruption. What comes after that?
I don't know. What comes after that?
You Really Got Me.
You really got me, yes.
Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing.
I knew that. You got me, but I knew that.
Really have, like, Running with the Devil right into Eruption. Eruption goes right into You Really Got Me.
Yeah.
You talk about the first 3 songs of any album. Just blow your brains out. And that was, to me, you know, 78 when I was a kid. I was in high school. I wasn't a kid. But
You were still a kid. Compared to now, you were a kid.
I was a junior in high school. And when that came out, I mean, there was few points in my life where I could say, you know, I listen to Nirvana and a lot of bands that have really had these seminal songs, especially first 3 songs. But that album is insurmountable.
And I agree, so that's why it's my number 2 also. But what's your number 1?
My number 1 is Friend of the Devil by Grateful Dead. I'm just going to come out and say I'm not like the biggest, I'm not a deadhead, all right? Because
You're a shedhead, though.
I'm a shedhead, but I'm not a deadhead.
Leave a comment below. I like this video if you want to be a shedhead.
Yeah. The thing about the Dead is, I have a kind of a, I wouldn't call it a love-hate relationship with them, but I'm not one of those guys that really got into, like, tripping on acid and listening to 20 minutes of Jerry Garcia's noodling, stuff like that. I mean, I find it extremely boring. But, you know, that album, American Beauty, that came out, that's a great album. That's my favorite, you know, Dead album. And I mean, it's been covered by so many people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tom Petty does a great.
he does a great version. I've got it right over here.
Set out running, gonna take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine.
Even like Counting Crows, a lot of bands have done that song. I think that is the Dead's best song. And it's definitely my favorite album. American Beauty is my favorite album by the Dead.
I would agree.
And-
I'm not a big Grateful Dead fan either, but yeah, that's a great song.
Set out running, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, just might get some sleep tonight.
It's got that really cool descending little riff that, you know, you and I can both play. And
Because it's easy.
It's a little, takes a C to ends up in an E, but yeah, it's good. Good song, great song, and I think that's a great Devil song.
That is a good Devil song. Love it. It's a great
All right.
number 1. Great number 1.
And if he catches up with me, I'll spend my life in jail.
Well, my number 1 is by Dave's favorite band of all time.
Better not be Motley
It's
Crue.
Motley Crue. Shout at the devil. So Shout at the Devil came out. Hey, if there ever was a devil song, Motley Crue did it with Shout at the Devil.
He's a wolf screaming lonely in the night. He's a blood-stained on the stage. She's a tear in your eyes, been tempted by his life. He's a knife in your back, he's rage.
That album came out in, I think, in 83, and I was like, well, 84, something like that. So I first heard it when I was like 13, 14.
I think it was 85 or 86.
No, it was 84. It was. I'm pretty sure. Somewhere around there. I was a young teenager when that album came out. And what's funny is I actually saw the album cover before I actually heard anything off that album. I remember riding my bicycle around like the football field in San Saba.
Yeah.
And laying on the ground was the cassette of Motley Crue Shout at the Devil. There was no cassette in there, but it was the cover.
Too bad a tractor wasn't running around at the same time. Could have run over that cassette and maybe, cut off your legs.
I would be a different person today.
You could be a gimp right now.
I would be a different person today if I didn't hear that album, because there are two albums at the beginning of my teen years that really, really turned me on to hard rock and heavy metal. First one was, and the one that really did it was Quiet Riot, Metal Health.
It should have been Van Halen.
It should have been, but it wasn't.
San Saba must have been a musical desert as far as I'm concerned.
It was a musical desert because everybody was into country or everybody was into pop. I was the metalhead pretty much growing up in high school. And Quiet Riot, Metal Health was...
Well, I'd give it to you
album.
for that just because... Well, I mean, that was after Randy Rhoads had left. But
Yeah.
We had Carlos playing the guitar, and that was it was a good album.
But-
I would put that album like 2 steps up above.
Motley Crue.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, those two albums are the two albums that really, really turned me on to this kind of music and made me really love it. Motley Crue at that time, they hadn't totally glammed out. They were a little more hardcore looking. They had the leather. And Nikki Sixx, back in the day, they would catch his leather pants on fire. They were a little more theatrical back then.
That made it sound better.
Their songs were a little heavier on Shout at the Devil, because then Theater of Pain.
Well, Troy likes Kiss. He likes that shit. And I don't like that shit.
He don't like that shit, but hey, well, we're 10 years apart. I mean, that's what makes it. If we both agreed on all the same songs, what fun would that be?
But Van Halen came out in 78, and
But
1984
but here's the
came
deal.
out about the same time
And
as
I got into 1984 when it came out, for sure, but I think
so much better than
Shout at the Devil came out right before 1984 did. But I didn't have anybody to look up to.
I'm going to do shock treatment on him. I got a 12-volt battery here. We're going to fix this guy. All right. Never mind.
Well, I didn't have anybody to look up to as far as like learning music from. I didn't have an older brother. I didn't have anybody that was older than me that would.
But you know what? The thing about it is,
All I had was Circus Magazine and Hit Parader Magazine, and at that time it was
you
all
had
about
Blizzard of Oz. You had Diary of a Madman, which came out before.
Yeah,
that.
but I was like 10, 11 years old. I was a little too young to know those albums. I discovered those albums after Shout at the Devil. That's when I really got into heavy metal. That's when I got into Ozzy. That's when I got into those albums.
Did your mom ever slip and fall when you were pregnant or when she was pregnant?
Probably.
All right. Well, goddamn. Because you literally have a lot of great shredding rock and roll heavy metal shit.
You know what?
Around the same time.
And I got into all that stuff too. But I think for especially that particular album, I loved the way they looked. I really, really did love Shout at the Devil. I think that's a great heavy hard rock album. Everything after that, Motley Crue went glam. They glammed big time, and their songs were not as good as on that album. You've probably never even heard the album. You don't even know. You don't even know what you're talking about.
I know what the shit sounds like, dude. I mean, it's like, this is the springtime where there's skunks getting killed all over the place. And you can smell the skunk, and you know it's a skunk. And that's what I'm saying. I don't have to run over the skunk to know that a skunk got run over.
Dead skunk in the middle of the road, stinking to high heaven.
I'm always railing on Troy about, Motley Crue because I really
because he secretly loves Motley Crue. For what I've discovered. Anyway, hey, that's our top 3 Devil songs. Leave your comment below. Let us know what they are. Get you some merch. We got a link below. Like this video and all that good stuff, and we will see you next time in the shed.
I knew you were gonna go there. God damn.